Hey subscribers, non-subscribers, anyone who's interested in this video for any reason, I have just completed some math to add up what I have made and lost in the first 1 month of operating the business with this Honda Odyssey van that I'm currently sitting in. So long story, I'm not even going to tell the short version, but I had pretty much a hard restart or reset with this van, starting basically from zero. And so it provided a great opportunity to kind of keep track of everything this time and do the math. And what I have here is all those numbers written down, and what I'm going to do is run through them as quickly as possible, kind of summarize what went out and what came in and how it has built in the 1 month of working with this vehicle. I do want to put this in context really quick. It is 12:38 in the morning right now. I have been on the road since 9:30 a.m. yesterday morning. I'm going to be back on the road at 8 a.m. or 8 to 8:15 a.m. this morning. And this is kind of typical of how I've been working for the last month. So I've been working my butt off, and I don't want to paint any other picture than that because it wouldn't be fair to you to paint an inaccurate picture of what it's been like. At the same time, one other thing to put this in context is that there was one whole week where Monday through Friday I worked basically a 9 to 5, so everything that happened with shipping fit around that. I think that was actually the first week. And then the following week was even a little bit harder because I had from Monday through Thursday, I worked 4 p.m. until 8 a.m. So that left only that window of time during the day in which I could work and also at some point possibly catch up on sleep. And also right now I'm about to crash at a buddy's house to which he lives where he works. He is the owner, co-owner, one of two, of the Allen Antique Barn here. Great place, great person. I asked if I could crash on his couch because it'll put me closer to my pickup destination tomorrow morning and eliminate an hour of driving to go out of the way to my place. So again, just to put this in context, like it's not been a bed of roses, but I also, on the other side of it, haven't had 100% opportunity to focus on this. And I have had other income coming in besides this because I am working my other job still, but that's tapering off. Without further ado, let's really take a look at the numbers here. I'm going to flip the camera around. I'll put these two together. I'll go through it as quickly as possible because I want to go to bed, but I also want to get this video up. All right, here we go. Date 9/29, very first number going out. That's the $700, the first of 3 payments on the van. Then we have gas. We have some of those taxes and transfer fees and insurance that obviously happened right out the gate. The first number to come in was $23 with roadie, the very first thing that I did with the van. Then I spent $250 on tires because one of the back tires was literally splitting apart right down the tread in the middle. Some money on gas. This was where I kind of hit rock bottom. I spent $7.18 on gas because that's all I had left at that time. And then the next morning, I used some of this incoming money from DoorDash to buy a charger, replace a headlight on the van, and purchased a hitch. Some of this might be a little bit out of order, but I promise you I was down to $7.18 at one point before money started coming back in. And then that was coming in. How did I have money coming in for tires? Oh, well, we'll just trust that that's correct. And, oh yeah, I ended up riding out to my property to try to find some other rims because I realized the tires I had bought were on rims that had a slightly different bolt pattern than my van had. So anyways, there's some gas for the motorcycle in there. Needless to say, this first week, there was a lot more going out than coming in. I'm not sure where I drew the line there. Yeah. Anyways, the total for the week, here we go. I wrote it up here. Outgoing money, $1,288.63, compared to incoming money during the first week, $145.99. Pretty terrible looking first week if you're really focused on short-term profitability, negative $1,100 and some. Let's start at the second week and see if things get any better. I spent $75 more on tires, and it turned out some of those were on rims that had the correct bolt pattern. I thought that 15-inch rims would work fine with this van, which came stock with 16-inch rims, and I was wrong. They did not fit around the brake components, so that was $75 more in addition to these $250 that felt very much wasted at the time, and that was very frustrating. I was running the van on a spare at that point, not because the tire had blown, but because I felt the spare was less likely to blow than the tire that was cracking straight down the middle of the tread. We did have some incoming money, $6 with Roadie. That's a courtesy pay on a gig that they actually canceled on me. Let's keep that story short. It was a lot more frustrating than that. And then we had the $150, the first kind of significant amount that came in from a single pickup. That was half of the pay up front for a $300 job from Grand Rapids, Michigan to basically the St. Louis area. A little bit more with Roadie, a little bit more with DoorDash. Keep moving on. And then we had this drop off, the other $150 of that $300 total. We had gas, of course, going out. So a little more Roadie, DoorDash. $150, Good as Old, one of my favorite customers. Dave over there at Good as Old. $80 washer. I guess I sold a washer. I delivered it to the person. $60 with Roadie. That was for a total of $752 coming in and $185 going out. So a significant turnaround there for a total coming in for the week, a net $566.94 profit for the week. But in total, that's the second number here. I was still at negative $575.70. Then we had some typical gas going out, Roadie, DoorDash coming in, $100 in tires going out. I finally found a set of tires on rims for $100 that worked for the van, and they're actually really nice tires. So after two misses, there was a hit there. We had some more gas going out, of course. And this week continues through here, so ignore these numbers at the top for a minute. We have power steering fluid coming in. I sold 2 of the tires on rims that did not work for $50. And I'd only spent $75 on that whole set of tires, which was 4 tires off rims, 4 tires on rims. So that felt pretty good. I had gas going out. I got the tires mounted on the van, $151 for that. Gas. And then I made a couple of drop-offs. 2 different fryers, one in Indianapolis, one in Chicago, $500 and $450. Gas, Roadie, and a cabinet that I sold and delivered. And there was $50 that I lost on the trip. That was the $50 bill that I was handed for the tires and rims. I really debated whether I should put this here as outgoing money or not, because I figured, I could lose money at any time, whether I'm driving or not driving. But I really felt that the loss of the money was directly related to the work I was doing. I believe what happened is I rolled in really late somewhere. One night I pulled everything out of my pockets, didn't properly put it away, left it sitting out. Either it was stolen, which is less likely, or I just had it sitting out on some blankets in the back. And then at some point I needed to take those blankets out to load something in the van. And I believe that I probably dropped the $50 bill myself in the process. Either way, it felt very specific to the trip. It wouldn't have happened if not for the nature of the work that I was doing. So I did include it in the outgoing money. But I will note right here while I'm thinking of it, that one thing I did not include that you may have noticed, is I did not include any food or meal expenses in outgoing money. And a lot of people make the really valid point that you tend to spend more money on food and meals when you are away from home as opposed to when you're at home. But I decided A, it would be a lot of work to keep track of all of that, and B, how you eat is kind of a judgment call no matter where you are. So although many people have the tendency to spend more, including me, when out and about and driving around and doing work away from home, it's not completely necessary. That's up to me. I can manage that however I want. And you do have to eat no matter where you are, or at least I should say your need to eat does not decrease because you're at home or because you're on the road. So I did not include any of that. Take that how you will. Just keep it in mind. That's the decision that I made there. So for this week, I think we did not go over it yet. Outgoing $609, incoming $1,200, over $1,200, double, just a little more than double what went out. The total for the week was 677 net positive, and that brought the total up for the first time to a net positive of almost $102. For 3 weeks, it finally turned an overall profit of $100. Now let's look at week number 4. $30 coming in with roadie, and $1,086.92 going out for repairs. That was mostly back brakes and something in the front, a wheel bearing in the front end. So all things that I kind of knew, well, the brakes anyways, I could really tell needed to be done. And I decided to pay more to have someone else do them because I didn't want to get into the job, realize something was really rusted or that I broke something in the process. I'd rather just pay someone more to do work. It's not my expertise. That's my mindset. My job is to drive the van, not to fix the van. So let's keep going. Lots of gas, some transmission fluid and gas going out. And then incoming $200 tip, really pleasant surprise. That went with this $525 U-ship delivery. Those were 2 really big speakers that went from Michigan to Mississippi. And then I was really mad about this when it happened, but I'm not so much anymore. $66 that GoDaddy charged me as a sneaky increased fee for my website URL name, whatever you call it, domain. So anyways, oh well, it's for a whole year, but they jacked it up from like $20 to $66.19 as an auto renewal. I do not like that company, but at the end of the day, I have that website to work with, and I'd like to do that. Anyways, oil change, gas, $300 coming in with U-ship, gas, $300 because I sold the set of 4 tires on rims I had originally purchased. Actually, I traded them for a different set, then I sold that set, so $250 went to $300, and it didn't feel like quite as terrible of a situation as it originally did. Then I spent some money here. All this has to do with installing the wiring on the van side to make the trailer lights work when I hooked up the trailer. And I will add that the seller of the van installed a hitch on it for me, so I had to purchase the hitch, but he installed it without charge. And that's Darren over at DDT Rentals in Detroit. Great guys to work with. I've rented trailers from them in the past, and they're solid dudes over there. So that helped out, but I did have to install the wiring, and that's what that's all about. Okay, sorry about that. Let's keep going. We have a bunch of more gas, because as you can imagine, it took a bit of gas to drive over to Long Island and drop off this Land Rover frame, not a whole Land Rover, for $700. Then some more gas on the way back, some power steering fluid on the way back, gas, and gas. The nice thing is that set me up really well for these next 2 days that rounded out the whole month. This is probably the only time I'll keep track by week. From here on out, I'll probably keep track by month, because I'm realizing it's going to be really hard to do both when they don't quite line up with each other. But let's look at these notes that I've scribbled in here. Don't look at this yet. That's for these 2 days, which I set myself up really nicely for, with a full tank of gas here and some drop-offs coming up there. But anyways, up here, outgoing 1,823. Remember, 1,100 of that basically was for repairs that the van needed from the moment I bought it. So that leaves only about 700 in direct expenses, but you know, repairs and maintenance are required aspects of owning a vehicle, and just wanted to kind of break that down a little bit more. Coming in, I had $2,063 for a net positive for the week of $239, and a net positive for the 4 weeks combined at $341. So at least it's in the black already. And even though these numbers don't look great for the amount of time and effort and energy that I've spent and wear that I've put on my vehicle too, I will say that most businesses don't expect to turn a profit within the first month of operating. So take that again as you will. Let's go down here. This is the last 2 days of the month, and in those 2 days I had a bunch of drop-offs. A TV, this was a vintage 1950s television set with a record player, radio, very cool. Some tires with roadie, some meds with roadie, and a barrel that was also actually should have been up here, but I forgot to put it in, and that was another U-ship one. And finally a piano that I helped move from this place right here, the Allen Antique Barn, just down the road, and they came and helped. And then I also paid my buddy who works here, who owns it, because he helped. So I took just $30, but to be honest with you, it was a really easy $30. And that brought the totals here to only $30 in gas spent in these 2 days, $671 coming in, and that total was a net $591 in 2 days for the positive, and a net total $933.25 for the month. So that's my net gain after considering incoming and outgoing for 1 month, $935.25 right there. I'll give you a sneak preview, I guess, while we're here, to the beginning of the second month, which was just today. So today alone, I had incoming $56.41. I forgot to write it down there. I'll do that. That was U-ship, 50 bags of pellets on a pallet. Some outgoing gas, and there's a $700 van payment, number 2 out of 3. So that will drop off here after one more. Gas, tolls to go over the Mackinac Bridge, $218.27 for dropping off a window. That was a $225 payment, but it came through PayPal, so there was a fee. There's going to be another identical payment tomorrow. I dropped off the window tonight, but I did not write down the money because the money's not been delivered to me yet. It should be as soon as that person gets in tomorrow during the regular workday and sees my email that I've dropped off the window, and then I should get another $218.27. But you can't count your chickens until they hatch. So I didn't write it down, because I don't write stuff down until I actually have it. Completing the job is not the moment I write it down. The money actually coming in is when I write it down. So there's a sneak preview, and I will keep this going to the best of my ability. It's probably been one of the things I've been most successfully consistent on ever in the course of doing this work. So I'm pretty sure I will keep it going. And at the end of month 2, I'll go through and get some totals for month 2. And we'll see how it progresses. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it kind of interesting. Obviously, this is super not polished, and I thought about putting a whole video together where there's, video of every single thing that's mentioned here, or the vast majority of it that I do have footage of. But at some point, I just want to provide, useful and interesting and informative content rather than necessarily focusing on anything flashy. So I hope that was those things for you. And I will add for context over the next couple of months. For this month, I think I have about 2 weeks of work in my other job. And then in December, I think I have 1 week of work. And after December, it could potentially be 100% focusing on this. And I won't get too far ahead of myself right now. I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off at this point and get some sleep in preparation for tomorrow. But anyways, I figured if you watched till the end, you have some interest in it, and that gives you a little more context. So if you have any questions or interest in kind of this numbers game or specifics about how, what I've focused on, or how I get, get this work or anything else, feel free to let me know in the comments. I do my best to look at and respond to those at some point. So, thanks for watching. Appreciate the view minutes, and I will catch you next time.